Hey, Paul here. I wanted to share a little bit of a thought today with respect to what's an appropriate response to government lockdowns, because we're getting more of those now. COVID numbers are rising here in Alberta, and I think a lot of people are just reacting one way or the other. But let's back up a second and ask ourselves what's the right response, or what would let's call it what would a virtuous response look like in principle? And I'm not here just to say I've got the right answer, everyone should respond this way, but rather I want to think in general principles, and then people can sort of bring it down to the specifics of their situation. So first of all, what does virtue look like? Well, we learned this from the ancient philosophers. There's this concept called the golden mean, or sort of like the middle ground between two extremes that are not virtuous, that are can be quite destructive. So let me give an example. The example that I've heard, which I think is very illustrative, is the virtue of courage. Now, courage is the middle ground between two extremes. On the one extreme, you've got people who are scared of everything, will never, ever go and do anything that might be dangerous or might be damaging or hurtful. They'll just avoid it altogether. That's cowardice. So that's the one extreme that's not virtuous. The other extreme, also not virtuous, is going out of your way to find danger, goes out and throwing yourself at danger for no good reason, when there's no reason why you would do that. That's the other extreme, also not virtuous. And in the middle, between those two extremes, is where you find the virtue of courage. So courage means, on the one hand, I'm not seeking out danger just for the sake of doing something dangerous, but on the other hand, I'm not avoiding danger if there's a good reason for me to expose myself to that danger. So that's the concept of the golden mean, or the middle ground. There is the middle between two non-virtuous extremes. Take the same concept now and apply it to the government lockdowns. Now, I don't know if everyone's really thought about this, but this is something I've been chewing on lately. There's kind of two extremes, non-virtuous extremes, that people will often take with respect to a government-imposed lockdown that takes away our freedoms. Right? The one non-virtuous extreme is the easy one to identify. This is the one that ends up on the news. This is these are the people who, like, anytime the government ever says, that imposes any kind of boundaries, they're up in arms. They got their placards out, and they're rejecting this and rejecting that, and it's just a knee-jerk reaction. They're just in defiance of anything and everything the government ever tells you to do. Well, that would be, I would say, one extreme, and that's a non-virtuous extreme. That's the easy one. That's the easy one to identify, because they end up in the news. They end up with the video, and it's gets shared on social media and whatnot. There's the other non-virtuous extreme that I think a lot of people are not talking about, which is the non-virtuous extreme of blindly obeying and accepting and believing everything the government ever tells you. That is equally not virtuous. That's the other extreme. And if we're going to find a proper virtuous response to, an approach to government-imposed lockdowns, somehow or other we need to avoid both of those extremes. So on the one hand, we need to not just blindly reject everything the government ever tells us, and blindly refuse to believe anything the government ever tells us. But on the other hand, we need to also not blindly accept and just submit our rights. The government says I have to give up such and such right. Okay, here it is. It's all yours. I didn't need that right anyway. That's not a healthy, virtuous extreme either. We should be bringing some level of skepticism, cynicism even, if you will, to the question. We should be questioning the government. We should be challenging the government. If they want to take away our rights, I need to see the evidence. I need to see the reasons why you're doing this, and it better line up and it better make sense. But I'm not just going to swing over and, turn into one of those fanatics that's rejecting absolutely everything, and the government's, conspiracy theories start to abound and what have you. Somewhere in the middle. Like I said, I'm not here to spell it out in painstaking detail exactly what this looks like, but somewhere in the middle, we have to find that common ground, or that virtuous ground, where we're not falling for either of the two extremes. And if we can do that and think through it and try to understand what that looks like, I don't think there's an easy answer to what that looks like. I don't claim that I have that easy answer. But I think on the one hand, we're going to have to accept some of what the government says. We are going to have to accept some limitations. We are going to have to accept that there's going to be some taking away of our rights in some cases in life, for some reasons, for some seasons. but never, ever, ever just blindly accept what the government says and just assume that they're right and assume that they know what they're talking about and that they've got good reasons behind what they're doing. We always have to question. So again, not a quick and easy answer as to what this should look like, but just some food for thought there. Hopefully it gives you something to chew on. Have a good one.